and tree canopies in certain forest ecosystems that scientists believe are intentional gaps, and they call it crown shyness, where the tops of trees often refuse to touch the leaves of other trees. And the article went on to say that there is a growing body of work that this intentional space may have several purposes, including allowing more access to light and preventing the spread of insects or parasitic vines and infectious disease. And the article mentioned, and I thought how fascinating, that in essence, trees have been adopting social distancing long before we talked so much about it in recent months, once again showing their ability to be adaptable and resilient. And so I think this is in part why we are here today, to talk about, all of us as stewards of our forests, how we can ensure the health and resiliency of our Missouri forests into the future. So the last time that there was a forestry summit of this nature was back in 1991, when the Forest for the Future conference was held. This was nearly 30 years ago, if you can believe it. And the time we were in the process of evaluating really the state of our forests at the time, and it included an examination of public lands, of the forest products industry, how to connect with landowners more effectively, examining wildlife needs related to forests. And we have made some great strides since the 1990s, including development of the Forest Stewardship Program. Our MDC Private Lands Division was created to focus solely on landowner outreach here in the state. Also, the Call Before You Cut was created to promote the services of consulting foresters to landowners interested in a timber sale. The Missouri Forest Product Association developed professional timber harvester training and master logger programs. MDC enrolled public forest land into the Sustainable Forestry Initiative to ensure sustainability standards are being met. And MDC and partners developed priority geographies to focus attention on our most critical landscapes. So as your director of the Department of Conservation, I really am proud of the accomplishments that all of us as partners have been incredible strides, really, have been able to accomplish in the last 30 years. But I also recognize that our forests are at a very different place than they were 30 years ago. Aren't we all a bit more mature? It's hitting a little close to home for me after a more recent birthday, but I think the point is we've all aged just a little. While mature trees are stunning to look at from afar, we know that many wildlife species rely on younger forests for all or part of their life cycle. And for every gain, there is often a countering loss. Many of you may be aware of the comprehensive assessment of bird species in the US and Canada that came out recently, the report did, that reveals across the board declines that scientists call, and they're right, staggering. All told, the North American bird population is down by about 2.9 billion breeding adults, with devastating losses among birds in every biome. Forests alone have lost 1 billion with a B, 1 billion birds. Priority species include goldenwing, Kentucky and prairie warblers, Henslow sparrow, and northern bobwhite. Statewide threats include poor forest management, forest succession, and very low acres of early successional forest. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Missouri has more mature forests, and in some cases, old growth forests with wildlife also dependent upon them. This would include birds such as the pileated woodpecker, hooded warbler, and ovenbird. With only about 10,000 acres of true old growth forests occurring in Missouri, there is the potential to manage some of our aging forests as old growth to benefit species that depend upon them. This is why evaluating the full picture of our Missouri forests is so important so we can continue to evolve in our forestry work in this state. But none of us can do it alone. So let me repeat it because it's so important. We've never been able to, and we won't into the future be able to manage successfully our forests alone. We need our partners. We need the public. We need our private landowners all working together. Now, the Missouri Department of Conservation only manages around 600,000 acres of Missouri's 15.3 million acres of forests. We're working hard, but there's a lot more work that has to be done out there. To reap the full benefits of our forests, we must rely on our partners, including other state and federal agencies that manage lands for the public, and most certainly our private landowners. Out of the 15.3 million acres of forests in Missouri, private landowners control over 12 million of those acres. It's estimated that about 212,000 landowners own 10 acres or more of forest land in Missouri. Many of these landowners cite beauty, wildlife, nature viewing as some of the top reasons they owned land. However, survey results from the Sustaining Family Forest Initiative estimates that only 6% of landowners are considered highly engaged in forest management. This is a stark contrast to the more than 40% who say they want to improve their land for wildlife habitat. When they look out at their land, we want them to think as much about trees as they do about wildlife, because we all know they go hand in hand. Moving forward, we're all going to have to be adaptable and resilient. Our own history in Missouri, and so many of you know this history well, serves as a great teacher on where we still have work to do. So let's think about it. Prior to European settlement, it's estimated that we had about 29.7 million acres of forests. And by 1907, it had dropped to 18.3 million acres. Then continued to decline to about 15.2 million by 1947, and once again declined down to 12.9 million by 1972. Now, it's since rebounded to its current 15.3 million acres. These early declines, we know, were due to harvest pressure in the late 1800s and land conversion to non-forest land use, to land abandonment during the time of the Depression, and land conversion to pastures. These have all had impacts on wildlife and the forest products industry and water quality, just to name a few. So it's constant steady work that's required to keep us all moving forward. So our vision for Missouri forests in the years ahead include maintaining our level of forest land, managing forests to keep them healthy and diverse in both species and age structure, reversing the decline in forest-dependent wildlife species, maintaining a viable wood products industry, and providing continued enjoyment by our citizens, besides retaining healthy forest ecosystem benefits such as carbon sequestration and water quality. To achieve this, we will continue to rely on strong partnerships while also engaging in new partnerships. Some partnerships include partnering with state and federal agencies to control feral hogs in Missouri. We consider this a top priority for this agency and for many other agencies as well, due to the damage that they cause to glades and fens, forest and woodland systems. Partnering with more than 800 rural fire departments to provide training and equipment for the control of devastating wildfires that threaten homes for wildlife and for people. Also partnering with landowners to assist them in meeting their forest management objectives and to promote the needs of wildlife and water quality for fish habitat. And partnering with many wildlife organizations to manage game and non-game animals alike. As I shared earlier, forests are a magnificent and resilient resource in this state, life-giving even. Forests support jobs for both forest products and for recreation. Forests bring people together, and they provide an escape into the wilderness, solace, if you will, that many of us have sought during the last few months, even more so. We've planted so many seeds and made incredible strides, but we all know that there is more work to be done, which is why I think so many of you have joined us today. And so my hope is that this summit will be this place of coming together, of learning from one another and connecting with each other while we continue to build this vision for the future when it comes to Missouri forests. I know we're all going to do great things together, and so I appreciate those of you joining in today. I hope it's a fabulous summit. Happy to answer questions if there are any. Brian?
So as we stated, if you do have any questions for Director Pauly, please type them into the question and answer window on your screen, and we'd be happy to entertain those at this time. At this point, nobody has asked any questions. So we'll give folks a second to see if they want to answer a few. I hear the hog operations are going pretty good this year.
They are, and we so appreciate our partnership, which we have with a number of federal and state agencies, as well as Pioneer Forest, Missouri Farm Bureau, and others. We have a summer operations going on now that has been very successful in eradicating hundreds upon hundreds of hogs this summer. And we're already beginning to plan for winter operations as well. And so really appreciate the partnership that we have with so many other agencies and organizations.
Well, thank you, Director Pauly, for your opening comments. There were a couple items in chat where people commented where they appreciate what you said this morning. And I truly want to thank you also for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this morning, provide some opening comments. I hope you'll be able to listen in a little bit for the rest of the day, but I know you're also pretty busy and may have to take care of other items that are on your agenda.
Thanks,
so with that,
Brian.
you're welcome. You have a good day.